Hi, it's Krista at the Secret Yarnery. Today we are turning a C2C triangle into a rectangle. If English isn't your first language, you can click on this gear on the video and scroll through to find your preferred dialect. And this easy-to-follow step-by-step crochet tutorial is available in both right and left-handed, so please check the description box below to find the version that suits you best. And if you're not sure how to decrease into a rectangle in C2C, this video is for you. I share with you all the tips or tricks to know what you're doing when you get to the end of the row or start a new row so that you end up getting a fabulous rectangle. Plus, I share with you the formula, the secret formula for how many rows you need to do to turn it into a perfectly shaped rectangle. You can use any yarn you have. I just used scraps of nice colors that I liked. It's a just regular size 4 worsted weight acrylic. And I used a 6mm crochet hook with that. And if you want to learn more or make stripes or master color changes or put on the most amazing edge, check out my Ultimate C2C Masterclass. If you'd like to follow along with a written pattern, all of my patterns are available on my website, secretyarnery.com. And you don't have to worry about being able to read a pattern. All of my patterns are written in plain English, just like I was sitting there right beside you. If you find this tutorial helpful, please subscribe to my channel for more. And here are the timestamps. You can jump right back into where you left off. Let's get started. Now we're ready to make a C2C rectangle. Because you have all the skills you need, you know how to increase, you know how to decrease, and a rectangle is just a combination of both of those skill sets. So one side we are going to do an increase, and one side we are going to do a decrease. So one side we're doing what we did for the purple, and the other side we're doing what we did for the green. So let's get started. To make a rectangle, we start with the very same triangle, or whatever size triangle you want your rectangle to be. So this will be the narrowest or the smallest side of your rectangle. And you'll need a couple stitch markers. One represents go or grow, and one represents stop. So you could use red and green. I don't have red, so I'm using orange. And just think green means go or grow. And of course, if you don't have these, you can just use a contrasting piece of yarn, something that tells you to grow and something that tells you to stop. So put your grow one or your green stitch marker or green piece of yarn or paper clip into that top area, anywhere along this edge here, and put your stop stitch marker or your stop yarn, you just tie it or clip it onto that bottom edge of your work. So one side is grow and one side is stop. If you're going to continue with the same yarn, do your chain 6 and build your block. If you're going to change color, then we're going to change color before we do that chain 6. So we're going to finish that last double crochet with our new color yarn. So those last 2 loops of the stitch on your hook, grab a new color of yarn, bring it through, drop your tails, and now do your chain 6. 1, 2, 3, pinch 4, 5, and 6. So into that 4th chain from your hook or that chain that you are pinching, just slide your hook in and make 1 double crochet. And 1 double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. So just our normal block for growing or increasing. So there is our block, and here is our work. Now your stitches could look a little bit loose, but remember you have those tails. You can shrink that up and get it looking just perfect. So laying everything down, holding your new block, just so it doesn't flip with your work, and turn the rest of your work up. And then we're going to rotate that block to join. So same as usual, same as increasing into a triangle. So just pop your hook into that space and slip stitch to join. Chain 3 to start your new block. 1, 2, 3. 3 double crochets into the space. 1, 2, and 3, slip stitch to join, and do your chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And now you can pause the video and keep working back up along your staircase, doing a block and joining all the way up. And I will meet you when you get to this very last block, this last step or last stair right up here. When you have reached the top of your staircase, we're at our stop stitch marker, so we're not growing on this side. We're going to slip stitch into that space. Put that loop up on the fat part of your hook. Turn your work, and now we're going to do the same as we did for a square, decreasing into a square. So 4 slip stitches, 1 into each stitch, plus the chain space. So the first slip stitch goes into the first stitch. And you can pull your hook up a little bit. They don't have to be really tight slip stitches. Into the next stitch, slip stitch. The last stitch, a slip stitch, and now into the space, a slip stitch. So now we are ready to start working along our staircase this way. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and 3 double crochets into that space. You can see that nice straight edge we've started. 1, 2, 3. Attach that new block to our staircase, just into that chain space. And now you can pause the video and keep working along, doing a new block and attaching to the staircase all the way along until we reach the top of our staircase. At the top of our staircase, slip stitch to join, just like usual. And this is our grow side, so we have to finish this last stair into our stair, because see, our hook is not at the edge. Our hook is in the center there, so we have to do our block to get everything lined up with the edge. So chain 3 and 3 double crochets. And we have to do a block. So we have to do our chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, double crochet into the 4th chain from your hook, and each chain working back down to that block. Total of 3 double crochets, so just a normal block, just like we've been doing. Making a brand new block, pinching our new block and flipping up our staircase, and then attaching to that first stair right there into that chain space. So slip stitch to join, chain 3 to get the height for your new block, your new step, 3 double crochets into the space. So just like usual, the center of a C2C is exactly the same. And slip stitching it to the next stair to join. Chaining 3 to get your height. And now you can pause the video and keep working along, building your block and attaching it, building a block, attaching, all the way up your staircase until we reach this last block right at the top. When you reach the top of our staircase, right up there, this is our stop side. We have our stop stitch marker, and it is getting nice and flat on this one side, so we are not growing. We're going to slip stitch into the space to attach our new block. Slide that up onto the fat part of your hook and turn your work. And now we're going to do 4 slip stitches, 1 into each stitch, plus 1 into the space. Into our very first stitch, 1 slip stitch, And remember, you can pull your hook up a little bit to make that a larger loop on your hook. It doesn't have to be really tight. Into the next stitch, slip stitch, into the last stitch, slip stitch, and into the space, slip stitch. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and rotate your work. So our staircase is facing up. We can walk up our staircase, and now we're ready to start our new block and attach it. So all the way up, we are making blocks and attaching it to the staircase. So slip stitch into the staircase to join, chain 3 to get your height for your next block, and then keep working along, making a new block, attaching, new block, attaching, new block, attaching, all the way along until we get to the top of our staircase, right up here. At the top of our staircase, we're going to attach that block. And we're on our grow side. You can move this stitch marker up to keep it more visible if you're making a larger project than I am. Just make sure you can still see that it's a grow. And then into that last block, our hook is not at the edge. Our hook is, well, we have to finish that block right here. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Now our hook is at the edge of our work. So that is what I wanted for mine, is just these 4 rows. Now here is some rectangle math for you. If you are wondering how many rows to do for your rectangle to extend it on the one side, you want to divide the width, the narrow side of your blanket by 3. Of course, you can do any which way, but this is just how I do it. So I would divide this narrow side by 3. So how many blocks there are? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 blocks I divide by 3. 3.33333. I'm just going to say 4 for mine. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I need to do 4 rows. But for any good rectangle, you want 1/3 of the width of the narrow side to do for these rows here. So I want to do 4 rows, and we've done 4 rows. So now I'm not going to be increasing anymore. I'm not going to build another block because that would be row 5. I've done 4 rows here. You can count your chiclets. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I've done 4 rows here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you have done the amount of rows that you wanted to, we're not adding any more blocks. We're just going to start decreasing. So to start your decrease, turn your work. And we want to slip stitch into those same 3 stitches and into the space. So into the very first stitch, slip stitch, into the next, slip stitch, into the next, slip stitch, and into the chain space, slip stitch. And then you would do your chain 3, rotate your work, and keep building up your staircase, doing a block and attaching, a block and attaching, a block and attaching, all the way up your staircase. I'm going to be changing colors just to show you that decreasing into a square, just so you can see the different stages of C2C. If you want to change yarn colors when you are decreasing, you can start your slip stitch into that space, but I want to finish it with a different colored yarn. So I'm going to grab my square decrease color yarn, this nice green, and just finish that stitch with my new color yarn, drop both tails, holding them at the back of my work, and now I'm going to do my chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now working back up along our staircase, 3 double crochets into that first space. And slip stitching to the staircase to join. And chaining 3. So before I let go of my work, I always like to do my chain 3, just so when I come back to it, I'm not confused. What do I need to do? If you stop working on your C2C and you just have slip stitch to join, sometimes you cannot know what you're doing. Are you on this side? Are you on that side? Where are you at? If you do your chain 3 before you stop or before you take a break, then when you come back, you know that that's your chain 3 and you have to do your double crochets into that space right there. We can take out our stitch markers now because now we are doing decreases all the time. No more new blocks. No chain 6s for the rest of our rectangle. So into that next space, 3 double crochets to build our block. So the center of a C2C, always the same. And then we're attaching it to our staircase with a slip stitch and chaining 3. You can pause the video and keep building your block and then attaching it, building your block and attaching it, building your block and attaching it all the way along. And I'll meet you when we get to the top edge of our work. When you've worked up your staircase and you are at that very top edge, we're going to slip stitch to join right into that space, slip stitch. Put that loop up on the fat part of your hook and turn your work. And we're going to do our 4 slip stitches back. So 1, 2, 3, 1 into each stitch, and the last one into the space. So there's our first slip stitch. Remember, you can pull up that stitch or pull up that loop and put it on the fat part of your hook so it doesn't get too tight. All the way along for our 3 slip stitches, and the 4th goes into the space. And then I like to do my chain 3 right now also, so I know what I'm doing. 1, 2, 3. Rotate your work. And now we can build up our staircase again, just like we have been doing for the whole C2C. So into the space, 3 double crochets and slip stitch. Into the space, 3 double crochets and slip stitch. Into the space, 3 double crochets and slip stitch, all the way up our staircase. So you can pause the video and I'll meet you when you get up to the top of your staircase. When you get to the top of your staircase, we're going to slip stitch into that space to join. 1 slip stitch, push your hook up so that loop is on the fat part of your hook, and turn your work. And now we're going to do our 4 slip stitches back. So 3 into stitches and 1 into the chain space. So into that very first stitch, slip stitch, push it up onto the fat part of your hook so it doesn't get too small. Into the last one, a slip stitch, and into the chain space, a slip stitch, and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Rotate your work. And each row of our decrease has less chiclets, less of these little shells, less stairs. So it goes really, really quick. So now you can pause the video and keep working along the staircase again. 3 double crochets and slip stitch to join to each stair all the way up. And I'll meet you when you get to the top of your staircase right there. When you get to the top of your staircase, we have to slip stitch to attach that last block. Push it up onto the fat part of your hook and turn your work. Slip stitch into each stitch, making sure your slip stitches aren't too tight. Just loosen them a bit, give them a bit of slack. So 1 into each of your stitches, and the last one into that chain space. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. and rotate your work. So into the very first space, 3 double crochets. We're into that very first space. Chain 3. And now pause the video, keep working along, building a block and slip stitching, building a block and slip stitching, and just keep repeating that all the way along until you have 1 block left. Getting close to the end, I'm just going to attach that block, so slip stitch to the staircase. Put the loop on the fat part of my hook and turn my work. Slip stitch into each of these stitches. And last slip stitch into the space. Chain 3. And rotate your work. So same as before, except it looks tiny. There's only 1 little spot left. So into that last space, 3 double crochets to build our last block. Slip stitch to join. Chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. And there is our C2C rectangle. So here's our increase, there's our rectangle bit, and there is our decreasing into a square. So congratulations, now you can do any sort of C2C pattern that you like. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I'm waiting for you in that video up there, and stay hooked.